Hey, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started in a few minutes. I'm just going to give everybody probably another 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody another 5 minutes before we get started, just in case we have a couple of folks that are coming on a little bit later. Appreciate the patience. All right, folks. It is a couple minutes after 11, so we'll go ahead and get started. And if people join us as we're going through, not a problem. We will send around a recording of the webinar as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining for our digital marketing webinar. I'm Nimish. I'm the COO here at Liferaft and one of the co-founders. A lot of what we're going to talk about today are some of the strategies and overview of how we approach digital marketing here at Liferaft, but also I'm going to walk through a couple of examples from my previous company that I sold back in 2019. So for some context, the last business that I started was called Blueprint Income, which was a direct-to-consumer platform for annuities. Fully digital. We worked with about 30 different insurance companies, and we were selling directly to individuals. So as I mentioned, a lot of the strategies that we employed in terms of finding new customers is going to be very, very similar to how you all think about growing your business. So that's a little bit of the context for what we're going to talk about today. Just a couple of admin items. I'd love for this to be very much a discussion. I will walk through the materials, but please, if at any point anybody has a question, there is a Q&A button, which should be either at the top or the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to drop in your question there. I'll keep an eye on that, and I will be sure to answer any questions as they arise. The other thing I want to note is this is actually going to be a bit of a new series that we're going to be trying here at Liferaft. So today, the focus really of our webinar is going to be an overview of digital marketing, why to consider it, what digital marketing really means, and how to think about the process. And then for the next several weeks, every Tuesday, we're actually going to have a webinar that's going to be a really deep dive into a different digital marketing channel. So if you're thinking about Google AdWords, or you're thinking about Facebook for your business, or Instagram, or a number of the other channels that are available to you, I'm actually going to go through platform by platform and walk you through how to set up ad campaigns that you can then run. So today, think about today as really the starting off point of how do we approach digital marketing? What does digital marketing really mean? What do we need to keep an eye on as we start these different campaigns? And then over the next several weeks, we will be doing deep dives for about 45 minutes each on the platforms and walking you through examples of how we set campaigns live, what numbers we look at, what sort of collateral you would actually need. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, we do have an hour booked. I think the materials probably are about 30-ish minutes. My thought is let's make this as much of a discussion as possible for you all. I'm really here to be helpful and to be a resource. So we'll talk a little bit about why digital marketing is important, especially in today's environment, as more consumers are starting to consider insurance options and are finding options online, how to position your business to really be successful at digital marketing. We'll talk a little bit about, broadly speaking, what does digital marketing mean? It's a term that's thrown around a lot. And what are some of the key considerations? So if you're thinking about pursuing a digital strategy for your agency, how do you be successful? And then we'll take a little bit of a deep dive on a few of the campaigns that we actually ran at Blueprint Income, which was my previous company before Liferaft, which we actually grew 100% digital, 100% direct to consumer. And we grew that business to about $500 million of premium, and we did it all digitally. So I'll take you through a couple of very specific campaigns focused on Google AdWords. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'll give you a schedule for what our platform deep dives are going to be in coming webinars. So for each of these platforms, we'll talk about kind of pros, cons, challenges, and then really walk you through how you set campaigns live and how you are successful if you decide to use that channel. So to start off with, let's talk a little bit about really the importance of digital marketing in today's environment. So I think we're all, as agents, similarly looking to expand our business. And one of the key challenges that we all have is how we find customers in a cost-effective way, right? So thinking about the unit economics of your business, you are paid a commission, or you're paid a commission typically for selling insurance products, and your objective is really to find new customers in the most cost-effective way, right? There is obviously costless ways to find customers. When you have clients that are very happy with your business, they will give you referrals to new individuals. Those are what we're all striving for. But as we think about really growing our practices, how do we do that in a way that is cost effective, but also gives us a way to scale our business, right? So traditionally, I would think about offline marketing, which a lot of us have done: newspapers, magazines, radio spots, collateral that's going to be handed out to places. There are some real significant, I would say, advantages to those channels. When thinking about traditional kind of print media, especially, you're going to get scale at the what I call top of funnel. And the top of funnel is really the number of eyes that you have on an ad for your message, right? So offline marketing, like newspapers and magazine, particularly print, are going to give you a lot of top of scale funnel. But the biggest challenge that we have with offline marketing, it is very, very hard to determine the impact and the ultimate conversion, i.e. the ultimate number of customers that we get from these offline channels, right? So I remember early on at Blueprint Income, we ran a number of radio spots. And what we found very, very early on is that we were spending thousands of dollars on these radio ads, and they were playing during high traffic times, right? So we knew people were hearing them, but ultimately, because everybody was being funneled to the same website, it was very, very difficult to actually determine what's called attribution, right? So being able to attribute the number of new customers that we got as a result of the radio spots. And the other challenge I will say with any sort of offline marketing, you really have to think about the time that your ad is being delivered, right? So there's print media. Again, print media, you get really good scale, but as people are flipping through the newspaper or magazine, the probability that you get a good hit is probably pretty low. Attribution you can do. However, again, conversion is usually pretty limited. Now, radio or billboards, right? When you think about people are in the car, they're traveling, they may hear your radio spot. However, you have a very short period of time to catch their attention. And when they get out of the car and are able to access their phone or their computer, they have to be able to remember either your phone number or your website. So offline marketing is a real challenge in terms of being able to really find your attribution and how successful it's been. And that's where digital marketing really comes into play. So I think the positive of digital marketing is that it allows you to reliably track your success and your progress. So because it's digital and because all of these platforms are set up to give you key metrics on who's looking at your ad, when are they looking at it, how many people are clicking on it, and the fact that we can actually track success through our websites, and I'll talk a little bit about how you do that, you can actually very quickly draw a conclusion as to whether your digital marketing has been successful or not. And so we're really looking at scalable outreach and doing it in a way that gives us real trackable impact in terms of the number of clients or the ultimate conversions that we're able to have. So let's talk a little bit about kind of digital marketing overview and key considerations, right? So as we talked a little bit about what is digital marketing, it's really being able to find and meet your clients in a digital space through a number of different platforms that we think they might use. And what we're going to talk about in the next slide is really two key platforms that a lot of companies are using for digital marketing and what some of the pros and cons are there. But as you start to think about digital marketing in your insurance business, I think really start to think about the funnel for your clients, right? So there's ultimately a sales funnel that every single prospect and every single client should be put into as you think about growing your business. So we can talk a little bit about this, right? So over here on the left-hand side, we've got top of funnel, right? As it relates directly to digital marketing, that's what we're going to call impressions. But think of the top of the funnel as who is the universe of potential clients that I want seeing my ads, or who do I actually want learning about my business? That top of funnel, there's going to be a portion of people that are going to be middle of funnel, right? And I would say that next step in the middle of funnel is going to be visits. So in a digital marketing context, it's going to be, of the people that saw my ad, how many people actually clicked on that ad and visited my site, right? There's going to be a percentage of what we call conversion. Think of it as a percentage of the people that see your ad that are actually going to click on your ad and visit your site. Now, of that visit population, there's going to be further conversion, right? There's going to be a qualification, or people are setting up appointments with you. Those are going to be the people that are really interested, right? So there's a conversion here to move them further down the funnel. And ultimately, of the appointments or the books that you get or the people that you qualify, there's going to be people who buy. And that's your ultimate bottom of funnel, which is the number of sales that you're actually able to place. And so putting this into, the digital marketing context, there's a couple of key metrics that you can use to track the success of your business. Ultimately, with digital marketing at the top of funnel, you are going to be paying a certain amount of money to get people to see your ad, right? Impressions. So what is the total cost of our digital marketing, right? There's also going to be a cost that you can attribute to each part of the funnel. So if we spent $1,000 on a digital marketing campaign and we got 50 visits to our site, that means that we paid $20 per site visit. If of those 50 people, 5 people were appointments, we know that we paid $200 for every single appointment that we got from our digital marketing campaign. And of those 5 clients, we had 1 that bought, which means we paid $1,000 for that new customer to actually buy. And what that allows you to do is then determine what the unit economic of every single client is that you bring in the door, right? So if I sell annuities and I know that I'm going to make on average $3,000 per policy that I sell, then if I'm paying $1,000 for a policy, so a customer that actually buys, I have made net $2,000 on every single client that I've been driving through my digital marketing campaign, right? And so again, as we talk about each of these different platforms over the coming weeks, we're going to really put this into context, and I'll walk you through real numbers that we've seen, how to actually think about your funnel as it relates to each platform. Because the second bullet here, meeting your clients where they are, is going to be a really big thing to think about with digital marketing. Given the number of different platforms that are available to you today, all of them are going to have different dynamics, both from a cost perspective, but also, most importantly, I would say they're going to have different dynamics in terms of what clients are spending time on those platforms and what are they really seeking to get out of that platform. You can use certain indicators to determine a level of interest or seriousness that are going to apply at a platform level. So as an example, and we'll talk about this on the next slide in more detail, Facebook. Facebook is a great platform to market to. However, if you really think about the intent of consumers when they're scrolling through their Facebook feed, most of them are not in the mind frame of being ready to book an appointment to learn more about insurance, right? However, the cost of Facebook makes it such that you can actually market to a very broad set of the population. If your content is catering to what might pique their interest well, you can actually see a very successful funnel through Facebook, but that is going to be very different than something like Google Adwords. So if you guys aren't familiar with Google Adwords, Google gives you the ability when you search something in Google, the first few results are typically going to be ads. You can pay to be one of those ads placed at the top of a Google search result. And the nice thing about Google is you can actually determine which keywords you want to use there. And so if you're looking for new life insurance sales, there are going to be people that are very, very interested and are are further along the purchase process of life insurance that are probably going to be looking for search terms like what is the best life insurance policy out there today? Life insurance pricing for a 30-year-old male, right? Now, you're going to pay more for those. However, you might see that your funnel actually goes from the person that saw an ad, and you have great conversion into who is actually interested. So that's just something to keep in mind here is we really have to meet our clients where they are. And more importantly, we have to think about marketing to them by meeting them where they are. So if they're looking for research, if they're looking for education, or are they really serious and intent on purchasing? And I'll put this into context through a couple of ads that I will show you here in the following slides. The other thing I want to mention here is this funnel should be personal to you. So really think about the way that you're placing business today. Perhaps through each step, there is an impression. Someone is going to see your site, and you've got a great content offer, right? You want people downloading in a book that you wrote on all of the considerations for life insurance. For you, the middle funnel and qualification of those leads or potential clients, maybe they downloaded my list of 50 things to consider when buying life insurance. And that gives me the opportunity to then further market to them and set up an appointment, right? So these are very broad metrics, but as you think about digital marketing, I think really start to hone in on what does your funnel and your sales process look like so that you can then accurately track the progress and the success of any digital marketing campaign and any marketing spend that you do through your process to make the determination of what you should keep doing and what you should decide to stop doing. And that really ties into this last bullet point here, which is monitoring your success through the funnel. So another thing that we're going to walk through in our deep dives is what does tracking success really look like? It can be done very easily in a spreadsheet, and I will share with everybody a template spreadsheet that you can use for every single channel. You put in kind of how much money has been spent. The ad platforms will all pop out, how many impressions you've had, how many visits you've had, and then you're going to be filling in the bottom of the funnel, how many qualifications, how many sales, and ultimately you're going to be able to really track how expensive is it for me to find customers through these channels. I'll pause there for just a moment. I know that was a lot of content. Are there any questions at this point? Please feel free to raise your hand, drop in a Q&A question if you have one. Okay, great. Doesn't look like we have any at this point. Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about two really big platforms and put a little bit of what I was talking about in the last slide into context. So again, to provide some background, Google AdWords is a platform for marketing that is offered through Google, the search engine, where you are able to show up in the search results when somebody is looking for what Google calls keywords, but is essentially the term that they're searching for. And social is really a very broad categorization for Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, where the marketing is typically going to be a little bit different than Google AdWords, and how you actually target customers is going to be different. So let's talk a little bit about Google AdWords. And, you know, this really ties back to meeting your customers where they are, right? So Google AdWords gives you the ability to use certain keywords and target those and bid on them. The beauty of being able to bid on keywords is that you are able to gauge a level of interest from your consumers, right? So you can be incredibly geo-targeted and look for people that are in your area. So as an example, I'm an agent in Texas, in the Houston area, and I want to find people that are 35 to 50 years old and are looking for the keyword best life insurance rates, are looking for a keyword that is life insurance agent near me, and I can bid to actually have my Google AdWords show up when they go search those terms. AdWords gives you, because you are able to target on keyword, and again, I'll walk you through an example of this and how we did this at Blueprint Income, it gives you the ability to gauge interest and intent. And the reason that is important is because based on what your client is actually searching on AdWords, that is going to give you a sense of what their process and what their sales experience should be. You don't want to treat a customer that is interested in education and, let's say, a guide who maybe wants to just learn a little bit more about life insurance the same way as somebody who is looking for life insurance quotes. And the reason you don't want to do that is because those customers are likely in a different part of your funnel. Someone who is looking for quotes or wants actual potential information on life insurance policies and what is going to cost them is most likely much further down the funnel and is ready to have a conversation about potential conversion and buying a policy. Somebody that's looking for things like, what is life insurance? Should I buy life insurance? Is life insurance right for me? That customer is going to be much further up your funnel and is probably looking for educational material. And so AdWords gives you the ability to really be incredibly targeted about the intent that your customer has. Now, compared to social platforms and social marketing is a cost-effective way to target a very broad audience. So taking our example of a Texas life insurance agent, I know that my clients are typically 30 to 40 years old and they've just had their first child in the Houston area, right? Social platforms are going to allow me to target and segment based on my geographies and certain interests. So I'm going to be looking for men and women who are 30 to 40 years old, live in the greater Houston area, and have interests in new baby groups, may have certain employers if you're able to target. So you can be incredibly specific about the demographic targeting and interest-based targeting on social platforms. However, it does not allow you to gauge interest as closely as AdWords. So taking a step back, AdWords, I know how serious you are about life insurance, and I know a little bit less about your demographics. In social marketing, I know a lot more about your demographics, and I know very little about your interests, and I can't really gauge it based on the social marketing platforms. And so really think about these two platforms as slightly different approaches to digital marketing. AdWords, we may want to think about only finding customers that are very, very serious about buying because we can be specific on our keywords. With social marketing, this is a good way for us to potentially build our brand, to actually find clients or potential clients that need some education, that are starting to think about our messaging, right? But aren't necessarily all the way there. So as an example, taking it back again, if I'm an agent in Houston selling life insurance, and I know that parents, when they have their first kid, are usually very interested in life insurance, I would think about a social marketing campaign on Facebook targeted to 30 to 40-year-olds in the greater Houston area that have an interest in new parent groups, potentially Montessori schools. And my messaging to these parents is going to be, if you just became a new parent, here's a checklist of insurance things that you should be thinking about, right? We're really going to speak to the fact that once you've had the new baby, there is a list of things that you should be thinking about to be responsible that's going to pique their interest. There is going to be a lot of education that's required, and we're going to have to provide them content to get them there, but could be a very good way to actually get some conversions. So the big difference, very broadly speaking, between these two platforms is going to be, do we want to gauge intent or do we want to gauge our demographic segmentation? So again, I'll pause there and see if there are any questions. I apologize, just give me one moment. I can't seem to see the Q&A. Okay, great. So no questions at this point, it seems. All right, great. So we'll go ahead and keep going. Now, before we look at two Google AdWords examples that I'll walk you through, this is really a funnel that you can use to think about how you want to do marketing really on any platform, but we'll use Google AdWords as an example here. So the first step of any digital marketing campaign and funnel is really going to be to clearly define what kind of lead you want to target. This is going to have an impact on what messaging you use, how you target your clients, and the experience that your clients are going to have. Because remember, your digital marketing doesn't just end on the platform. You have to really think about the holistic customer journey. So from the time that somebody is searching certain keywords, we want the ad to reflect what they're searching for. When they click on our ad, we want to make sure that the content that they are given is also speaking back to what they were looking for initially. Once we have a definition of what kind of lead we want to be targeting, we're going to really think about what do we want these leads, or what do we think they're going to be looking for, right? So let's take a very real example. And I'll show you these two examples as we go into the next slides. At Blueprint Income, we were looking for people interested in buying fixed annuities, simple products, guaranteed interest rate for a period of 3 to 10 years. Excuse me. We'll take an example where I was looking for leads that were based in certain geographies, but primarily were had heard about fixed annuities, but weren't sure if fixed annuities were right for them, right? So I'm looking for clients that are a little higher up in the funnel and are probably asking themselves, hey, I've heard about this thing, annuity, like I've heard about a fixed annuity, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And so as I think about that kind of lead, that's my lead. What do I think that lead is going to be looking for? I think that lead is probably going to be on Google searching things like, what is a fixed annuity? How do I know if a fixed annuity is right for me? Advantages of fixed annuities, disadvantages of fixed annuities, keywords or search terms that you would really think a client that is early in their education process is going to be thinking about as they're considering purchasing insurance, right? Whether it's a fixed annuity, whether it's our Liferaft product, whether it's health insurance, there are going to be a lot of these key questions. Based on that, let's define what we think they want. So at Blueprint, I thought if you're looking for those certain things, you're probably not looking for a product just yet, right? It's too soon to give you product options. What you're going to be looking for is some level of education on how to consider whether a fixed annuity is right for you, right? So, okay, I now know that I'm looking for somebody early in their education process about fixed annuities. I think they're going to be looking for the pros and cons, what they are, background information. Now, I think what you're going to be looking for is unbiased information on what those products are and whether they make sense for you and how to consider that. If that's what I think, let's now move it to once a lead is clicked on our ad, what are we going to deliver them? Now, for somebody that is earlier in the process, still searching, still learning, I think a guide is probably what they're looking for, right? They're looking for a way to understand and answer all of those questions that they had. Now, if that's what we're going to offer them, once they've given us the information and download the guide, how are we going to be following up, right? Because our conversion, especially for a lead like this, doesn't end at you downloaded my guide. There has to be a follow-up flow, and we have to be sending them emails or giving them calls to book that meeting or understand how likely are you to actually purchase a product. So this is a funnel you can follow in every single, this is an AdWords example, but this is going to be every single platform. And this is the process that we should be following, the 5-step process we should be following when we start to build out digital marketing campaigns. So again, let me pause there and see if anybody has any questions before we keep going. Whoops, and I apologize, I can't see my Q&A screen. No questions. Okay, great. All right, so let's put this into practice, and I'll walk you through two very real examples. So the example that we just walked through, this is a top of funnel ad, right? So as I mentioned, there are two distinctions here. There's top of funnel, somebody that's looking to learn, and there's bottom of funnel, somebody that's probably closer to buying. So here's a real ad that we ran at Blueprint Income. If I go and search, what is a multi-year guaranteed annuity, or what is a fixed annuity? The ad, those were the keywords that we targeted, and we paid for our ad to show up at the top. And the ad, the actual ad copy, or the ad words that you're seeing here, easy to understand guide, multi-year guaranteed annuity guide, right? Free rates, get the guide to understand the product, the pros, the cons, etc. And then a little bit about our brand, right? Highly rated. We have a lot of users. We're not going to call you. We're not going to try to sell to you. We've got a great rating. And if you're looking for what are fixed annuity pros, what are fixed annuity cons, how do I really understand if it's right for me? This is probably an ad you're going to click on. And once you clicked on this ad, this is the landing page that you went to, right? So we gave you the guide, and it spoke again to what is the product? What are the pros and cons? And if you looked, who's it right for, right? There is an actual, you could download the guide in a PDF. And once you got to this landing page, if you clicked here or you clicked here, we would ask you for your email so that we could send you the PDF. And once we had your email, we were then sending you emails, usually once a week, that were re-highlighting a lot of the information that you were learning through the guide, right? Now, this was incredibly successful for us. I think providing that education, it usually took longer, right? The people that you're finding through education and top of funnel, they're going to take longer to become customers because they're still early in their process. However, what we did was we thought about, who are we targeting? We're targeting people that want education. We're targeting them with a message that we think will resonate with them. And we're offering them something of value here and simply asking for their email address, right? Now, a majority of this sale occurred in our email after they had downloaded the guide, once they had a look at it. But typically, this was a very high converting strategy for us because people were looking for the education. And once we provided them that, they were then looking to us as a trusted source as they really evaluated whether a fixed annuity made sense for them. Great. So now let's look at a slightly different example of an AdWords here, right? Now we're going to look at bottom of funnel. So if I just go back 2 slides, right? If I take my 5-step process and I take it not top of funnel, but bottom of funnel. So I now want to be looking, step number 1, my lead is going to be somebody that is actively in the market and is comparing fixed annuity rates. That is my lead definition. What do I think those leads are going to be looking for on Google? They are going to be looking for best fixed annuity rates. They are going to be looking for compare MYGA rates. They're going to be looking for best 3-year annuity rate, right? What do I think they're looking for? I think they're looking for a way to compare rates, right? I think they're looking for a place to be able to determine, where am I going to get the best product for what I'm actually looking for? Once they've clicked on that ad, what do I want to deliver them? I want to deliver them that information exactly. I want them to be able to see the rates. I want them to be able to get a quote quickly. And then once they've given us their information, the follow-up on this lead is going to be very different than that last lead we talked about. It is going to be very driven on how easy it is to buy, how the rate that we had was better than the rate everybody else had. The service that we had was better, right? And so the content was targeted to somebody that was further down the funnel and was really getting closer to making a transaction. So let's look at the language here. So if you Googled best fixed annuity rates, this is the ad that you would see from our business, right? Multi-year guaranteed annuity rates, top rates and selection, the best selection of multi-year guaranteed annuity rates. Compare and purchase online. So again, the copy or the content of our ad was speaking very directly to somebody that was looking for the rates. And when you clicked on this ad, this is the page that you were brought to. As you can see, you had rates immediately served up, right off the page. You could filter, you could look at a few different options, you could compare them, and then you could either directly purchase, or if you hit details, you had the option to talk to one of us, where we then knew, this is what you're looking for. These are the rates that you're interested in. How can we be most helpful to you to help you make your decision? And this also led to a huge number of conversions, right? It's all about finding the right lead, thinking about what their intent is, and then meeting them with the content that is going to address that intent. And this applies to any digital marketing that we do, right? We're going to really want to think about what sort of leads are we finding on the channel that we're targeting, and then what sort of content can we provide to them that is going to speak to exactly what we think they're looking for. And so here you have two examples. You have a top of funnel and you have a bottom of funnel. Now, compared to the top of funnel, right, somebody that was interested in rates and selection was usually going to be a lot closer to buying. And so it took less time for us to convert them. But it made sense for us to be looking at customers at both the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. So again, I'll pause here. Any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Thanks for your question, Denise. Will annuities be added to your platform as well? So at this point, no, annuities will not be added to our platform. We're going to continue to be focused on the supplementary space. And so really thinking about products that are going to be beneficial for those clients that especially are on high deductible health plans. That being said, over time, it is potentially something that we look into. Thanks for that question. Great. Wonderful. So that is actually it for our overview for today. As I mentioned at the beginning, for any of you that may have joined a little bit later, we're trying something a little bit new here with this digital marketing series that we're going to be doing webinars of. Today was really our first overview of digital marketing. What is it? How to think about digital marketing campaigns when they can be successful. What we're going to be doing every Tuesday for the next, 5 weeks, is we're actually going to do follow-up webinars with deep dives on each of these different topics. So next Tuesday, and we'll send out an email with the invitation, we're going to be talking very specifically about Google AdWords, and something that we didn't touch on today, but we will next week, is called Google Network Display, which is very similar, but it's really made for banner ads. And we're going to walk through both the platform, how to set campaigns live, how to set your bidding strategy, how to think about the budget that you're setting, how to track success. The week after that, we'll be talking about Facebook and Instagram marketing. These are probably two of the more popular marketing campaign or platforms right now. So again, we'll be doing a very deep dive into how do you set an ad campaign live? How do you track success? How do you think about targeting? And then remarketing. This is something we didn't talk about today, but this is something that can be very, very powerful. So there is something called remarketing, where if you have leads or potential clients and you have a large book of them, what you can do is actually use a number of these platforms to remarket to those folks. So, this I would say is most useful when you have a large book of kind of cold potential clients that maybe have come to you over the last year or so, and you want to reactivate those individuals. I will talk a little bit and go really deep into how do you use these platforms to try to re-engage with old potential clients. And then early June, we're going to talk about the implications of your actual digital strategy outside of the marketing, right? So now that we understand how do we put campaigns live, how do we build these campaigns, how do we track success, how do we really reflect that on our website as well? Do we want to do landing pages for certain offers? How to really think about building your own website. And then the week after that, we'll be talking about SEO, or something called search engine optimization. So in addition to paying for traffic, we can really be strategic about how we build our sites and our digital presence to actually get organic value, right? So if you're writing content, or you have a landing page or your homepage, we can be very strategic about the words that are surfacing throughout our digital presence, because what that is going to do is, as people look for certain information, you're actually going to start to be showing up organically, right? And so you're not necessarily having to pay for every website visit that you get, but you're actually starting to get more organic traffic to your site. I believe there's one other question that came up. Let me just slide over. Do you have a schedule as well for marketing, and what is best advertised on what platform and when? Yeah, so thank you, Anise. Anise had a question on, do we have a schedule for marketing, and what is best advertised on what platform and when? Absolutely. So one of the things that we will certainly share, especially over the next couple of weeks, is we'll do a deep dive onto each of these different platforms. But then also what I will provide is a spreadsheet that can actually be used to schedule your digital marketing across different platforms, right? So it's not that you necessarily want to just do Google AdWords, or just do Facebook, or just do Instagram. What you likely really want to do is think about testing all of these channels, and then being able to compare the data next to them, right? And so we can, provide some of those templates and those tools that you can set up, and then really be able to run tests across these channels to see what works and what doesn't with your potential clients. Any other questions that anybody has? Feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A. Okay, great. Doesn't look like we have any other questions at this point. Really appreciate everybody joining. What I will do is, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes in case anybody has any individual questions that they would like to ask. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody on allowed to talk. And so if there are any questions that you'd like to go ahead and bring up, either with the group or individually, please feel free to stick around and go ahead and ask any questions. If not, that is all the material I had prepared for today. Hope to see you all again next Tuesday, when we'll do a deep dive into Google AdWords and Google Display Network. And I will also be sending around the recording of this webinar and any future ones that we do as well to the group. Thank you, everybody. All right, doesn't look like there's anything else. So again, appreciate everybody joining. Hope to see you again next Tuesday. We'll do a deep dive into Google AdWords and Display Network, and we'll really be able to put some of this into practice. And as always, if anybody has any questions, whether it's on digital marketing ideas or campaigns or the product, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to help. Thank you so much.